Madinah Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurship, MILE.
Hello everybody, my great pleasure being here while remotely with you. Today I'm speaking from Doha, Qatar, and we can start sharing the basics about scenario thinking. Mainly knowing that we are living and working within a quite a complex, for sure more complex than ever before, world. It's called today a global world, global and local, all together. So taking decisions, managing and having a vision within our local world today is really challenging. Scenario thinking matters for that because it's a powerful methodology, mainly to anticipate the change and incorporate uncertainty into the decision-making process. So dealing with scenario thinking means becoming able to understand and manage trends. Regarding trends, I'm about to share with you a few charts, mainly focusing on our interconnected and polycentric world. It's a global world, global and local, mainly because it's interconnected and mainly because we live within a polycentric world. So you can easily understand, taking a look at the charts I'm showing you and then the following charts, that is not easy today designing and thinking scenarios because things are happening every second and the directions may be really contradictory. Just to share with you an example, what are we doing right now? At the end of the webinar, if you are aimed at having some more info, you can also enter some links activated directly by my charts. But simply taking a look at those charts, we can easily understand we are doing right now a lot of things that are really interconnecting the many of us and that are making pretty unpredictable what is happening, which scenarios will be really relevant tomorrow. Think what we are supposed to do every minute of the day, just with the social media. Numbers are really immense, more than big. We are downloading, we are chatting, we are talking, we are exchanging emails, and each time we are interfering with the scenarios we are immersed and we are dealing with. And we are changing. We are contributing to change the scenarios.
Mr. Fernando, sorry to interrupt. Let me interrupt in this scenario also because I believe your presentation slides, they are a bit shifted towards the right side. We are not seeing in full screen mode. Can you press the escape in your PowerPoint if you're using, and let's see if we can run a full slideshow.
I'm apparently in the full screen mode.
You are in the full screen mode?
Yes. Now not.
But maybe your screen resolution is perhaps not adjusted, or is it more than 100% right now on the? Because we are.
Now would you like having me changing the file, not the PowerPoint, but the PDF?
That might work, but I just need to see the screen resolution because apparently right now the title of this slide that you're displaying, can only read every minute of the DA. Even Y of the day is not appearing. So it's all, you know,
Okay.
they're just like...
I'm apparently with the full screen display. I can close the PowerPoint,
Yes.
open a PDF.
But
Let me know if it's better.
But yeah, I think the issue might be with your screen resolution. Yeah, again, it's the same because...
I can try to change my screen resolution.
yes, sir. If you could.
Do you know which resolution is good for you?
It could be easily in 1024 or even, I think you're right now on 800 by 6, maybe.
So,
Apologies for this interruption.
no problem. Any difference?
A little better, but still not completely resolved.
Oh, very sorry for that.
No,
I'm not
that's
able
okay.
to understand what's happening.
Yeah, neither do I. Try to... but sir, please go ahead. I think we just have to...
Okay. So I was talking about what is happening every minute of the day, just within the social media world. I can very briefly remember you the next or top 10 strategic technologies trend expected for this year, mainly high diversity within mobile devices world. We are dealing with lots of mobile apps and with the so-called Internet of Everything. And we are really entering the cloud and a direct, let's say, relationship in between client and cloud. So we are really entering the era of personal cloud, and that is supposed to change the existing and current scenarios in a way a little bit unpredictable for the coming few years. As you know, we are more than 7 billion as humans, and the trend is increasing. So the world is more and more populated, and billions of people are interacting every day a little bit more. I'm going through the charts quickly, because if you cannot really share with me the same charts, it's better talking and having yourself analyzing the charts after our webinar. So you are supposed to find other 5-6 charts directly focusing on current trends expected by 50 to 100 years from now by mainly relevant institutions like World Economic Forum or World Bank. So we know we are expected to live, many of us, within 15 really mega cities, big human conglomerations, and we are supposed in a few decades to live in a world where the economics will be really different compared with now. Understanding the global megatrends, understanding how to design and take decisions in order to reach objectives, to reach something relevant to our businesses for the coming 5, 10, 15, 20 or more years is challenging. You are supposed to find within the charts some links to KPMG or to PricewaterhouseCoopers and to some other big companies dealing with scenario thinking and global megatrends. Because we have to understand how urbanization is accelerating. We have to understand how resource scarcity will impact on climate change. We have to understand not only technological shifts and innovation, but mainly shift in global economic power and demographic shifts. So if we work within companies or within public bodies, we have to deal with economic power shift, we have to deal with climate change, we have to deal with resource stress, we have to deal with urbanization, we have to deal with demographics, we have to deal with the new enabling technologies, we have mainly to deal with economic interconnectedness, and last but not least, mainly in Western Europe and the United States, with the public debt. All those are part of our scenarios. Next to come scenarios. We can say that data are widely available. What is scarce is the ability to extract wisdom from data. It's not easy today. Having wisdom, being people, managers, executives, really able to understand what is happening in our global and local world. Maybe you can take a look at the chart, I'm not sure. Is the world seen by Australians or from Australia? Is another way to take a look at our world. Commonly we are used to look at the world through another window, with Australia at the bottom and usually Canada on the top. That is another way. And the scenario thinking means trying to keep together a little bit different ways of looking at the world. Like from Australia. Generally speaking, scenario thinking means thinking about the future in a different way, trying to bring together different visions, different ways we are used to look through the windows at the world. That is the approach to scenario thinking. It's let's say, a structured process, because since the 60s, mainly the 70s, mainly within Shell, the big oil giant, and then within many other companies, a number of companies and also public institutions, today also not-for-profit institutions, scenario thinking has been structured as a process in order to anticipate the unknown, because the future is usually unknown. But we can try to deal with the unknown, with the uncertainty, in order to design, sometimes a little bit, in order to manipulate our next steps. Mainly if we are a big organization, in order to understand geographically, politically, economically, what is happening tomorrow and what will happen by 5 to 20, sometimes 30 years. So today we are sharing some tips about scenario thinking, because it is an effective tool. It's a very effective tool. There are books, there are researches, there are good and best practices, and because, in my opinion, dealing with scenario thinking means for you being enabled to manage your future as part of a company, as part of an organization. So within my charts, you are expected to find a link to Shell, because Shell is really, still today, the benchmark. Dealing with the Shell approach to scenario thinking means understanding the field benchmark. And Shell is actively engaged in thinking scenarios about economy, political changes, and the human side of the world. For instance, the future cities. So we are a little bit dealing with futurism. Futurism means engaging ourselves in order to discover or to find expected trends regarding tomorrow or regarding the horizon 2030, 2055, 2050, depending on the aims, depending on the expectations. Scenario thinking means analyzing critical uncertainties, trying to focus trends. Many trends are already existing. Many times we do not have the most appropriate glasses to take a look at trends. So scenario thinking means interacting among few people within a small team and interacting among 3 or 4 or 5 teams in order to share knowledge and expectation about trends. For sure, based on data, but mainly based on hypothetical reasoning. Scenario thinking means building stories about the coming future. Scenario thinking means designing, hypothetically, the expected behavior of tomorrow actors. Tomorrow actors are people. Tomorrow actors are organizations. Tomorrow actors are trends, till the mega trends. At the core of the scenario thinking approach and methodology, there is a simple question: what if? Asking what if in a really disciplined way allows us to understand, to check, to find the possibilities of tomorrow. So asking what if and checking, mainly within our organizations, if we are able and we are ready to act, to react to something that is about to happen, means being at the core of scenario thinking. So really the art of scenario thinking, both for non-profits or profit organizations, from the public as well as from the private sectors, corporations, companies, as well as governments and public bodies, means asking what if? Asking each other within a small team and among different teams, different groups, what if? What if that will happen? What if is really the core of a long view, because scenario thinking means looking at 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, sometimes more. But usually 3 to 8, 3 to 10 years. Means quite a long view, mainly today, in the interconnected and ever-changing global world. Scenario thinking, that is the second principle, means sharing multiple perspectives. We have to build stories with a divergent approach. We have to bring together several different perspectives. That means working together in a small team, just to start, and then within several teams, because we have to try to, let's say, embed uncertainty within our decision-making processes. And that means looking through different windows, using different glasses. And third principle related to scenario thinking, the so-called outside-in thinking. Many times we are used to deal with what is most familiar with us. So we tend to look at the world through the same glasses. We are mainly to try to look at the world from other perspectives, and that means bringing in the outside-in thinking approach. That means starting from or by exploring external developments, both in the context, the broad context or contextual world we are dealing with, and within our working environment. After having approached the external environment, the external context, we may go deeper within our internal organization, within our internal world. So we have to start trying to understand, depending on our activity, our industry, our segment, constituencies, customers, communities, competitors, partners, the regulation. So the driving forces, the social, technological, economic, environmental, and political driving forces, we are expected to deal with day by day. But sometimes we are not so used to really analyze day by day. Sometimes, to start, at least, when we are asked to start a scenario thinking process, we have to start dealing with the driving forces, analyzing from multiple perspectives. Then, from the external driving forces, we may go deeper within our working environment. And then we may start dealing with our organizational issues. So starting from the context, from the external world, in order to go deeper within our internal issues. So that means building diverse stories. Scenario thinking means asking ourselves, what if? And answering with a multi-perspective approach. So answering, bringing together diverse stories that are diverse hypotheses. We cannot today predict any future event. The world is too complex, is too complicated. A systemic thinking approach means today trying to deal with diverse hypotheses, diverse stories, in order to bring the future within a framework, and at the very beginning within more than one framework, then discussing 2, 3, 4 alternative scenarios to find the not the most suitable or the preferred, but that is the most compliant with the major trends we are talking about. That is scenario thinking. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes the exercise is really easy. Other times it's not so easy. Depends on the scenario we are dealing with. So usually at the first stage we are engaged in setting the agenda, then in determining the driving forces, then in clustering the driving forces, the trends, within a few bigger clusters, in order to start to keep things the easiest as possible. Then, as a stage 4, and you will find that ideal main stages within the charts shared with you, we are supposed to be engaged with defining the cluster outcomes. At least we have to define 2 extreme but highly plausible, so as possible, outcomes for each of the clusters over the scenario time scale. Then we have to deal with an uncertainty matrix, impact and uncertainty, in order to really deal with the main scenario factors. Till to framing the scenarios, defining the extreme outcomes, usually split it in 4, the expected scenario. What if case A1, what if case A2, what if case B1, what if case B2. That is the approach. Then scoping the scenarios, and then really developing the scenarios. Like I'm going through the charts like that. That is a page from a scenario designed by Shell, our today's benchmark, because really since the 60s and the 70s mainly, they are dealing with scenario thinking with a very interesting approach. So in this case, you can, or at least you will read and easily understand. Scenario means building, writing, describing stories in order to share more than one possible story or possible outcome, bringing in the major trends, hard power, soft power, in this case the rise of China, China as benchmark, soft power from European Union, pretty and hard power from the US leadership. In scenario thinking, we may think differently. It's highly valuable thinking differently and bringing together more than one divergent possible scenario. Because at the very end, what really matters is being enabled and being prepared to answer the things that will happen unexpectedly tomorrow, by 3 years, by 5 years, by 8 or 10 years or more. So that is scenario thinking in brief. And that is the 5-phase scenario thinking process. Phase 1, orient, interviews, focal issue, the small teams dealing with the major trends. Phase 2, explore, critical uncertainties and some predetermined elements. Phase 3, synthesize scenario framework and sort out with some first scenarios. Phase 4, act, implications, strategic agenda. Mainly to check which scenario seems to be more relevant or the most appropriate, depending on the trends you are analyzing and dealing with. And then practically, concretely, phase 5, monitor by leading indicators, by a monitoring system. We may put in place KPIs, key performance indicators. We may put in place a monitoring system in order to check if our preferred scenario is really happening or not. So scenarios are not predictions. Scenarios are not predictions, but stories, plausible stories. And a story is an hypothesis, is a hypothetical thinking. Scenario thinking means dealing with stories or hypotheses about what is expected to happen in the coming years. So we have really to monitor. We have really to check what is happening, because if scenario thinking is based on divergent thinking, and so is based on having more than one scenario available to understand better what will happen in the coming years, and not only a preferred unique scenario, we have to be ready to monitor and to change partially or totally the main scenario we are dealing with in order to understand what is happening and what will happen in the coming years. So we have to remain flexible. Scenario thinking means capturing a range of future possibilities, good and bad, expected or really surprising because totally unexpected. Some means also scenario thinking that usually a simple solution is wrong. Keeping things simple is nice, but with social phenomena, the output usually is bad, is wrong, because social systems belong to a class, a cluster, called multi-local, not linear feedback systems. So systems thinking means, and scenario thinking is based on system thinking, that we have to understand usually social systems are counterintuitive. So many times what we feel about a scenario, about a future, is wrong. Our cognitive and metacognitive scholars and researchers are working on the human brain as well as on other mammal brains, and are providing us with relevant outcomes and tips. The main tip of today is social systems are counterintuitive. So dealing with scenario thinking means finding a way to avoid, to try to discover the future using our human intuition. That is the reason why scenario thinking means working in a small group, then in more than one small group, comparing hypotheses, comparing stories, comparing expectations, knowing that any among us is really an expert. And that is the reason why many times not experts are good scenario thinkers, because as a second stage of the scenario thinking process, we may really engage the specialists. But on a first stage, we have mainly to engage ourselves as general managers, senior executives, senior officers, or junior, why not, officers and executives dealing with our day-by-day business, industry, activity. We are all able to be part of a scenario thinking process, because scenario thinking is not based on specialist approach of work. As common people, we are able to deal with the major trends influencing or directly relevant to our businesses, and that is enough in order to be part of a scenario thinking team. So please be careful with simple explanations, because many times simple explanations are wrong. So we are in need to embrace complexity in addition to linear thinking. And system thinking is the best way to put in place a scenario thinking approach. Within the charts, and I'm about to approach my conclusion by a few minutes. Scenario thinking means, as the example you can find within your charts, understanding systemic risk in a changing global environment. Within your charts, you're expected to find the networked factors explaining, at least partially, the systemic risks within a changing global environment. That is an output from the World Economic Forum, Davos, 2014. And there is an active link to the webpage with some more info. So that is an example, a concrete example, the way you can deal with trends, different trends. You can try to embed within a unique visual explanation several different trends regarding a very interesting and relevant topics, systemic risks. So we are saying that data visualization is the base for scenario thinking. So you can directly find within my charts a couple of links to websites where you can find the good tools, IT tools, in order to visualize data to start your scenario thinking process. Tableau software is one, and datavisualization.ch is another website, in this case a Swiss website, with several different links to different tools, all aimed at visualizing data and knowledge, to have start a knowledge sharing process easily, and to start a scenario thinking approach. That has to be a system thinking based approach. As said, within another chart, you are expected to find another link to several websites I selected for you. Websites regarding law and economics systems, regarding world trends, because you are in need to start with trends, with selected trends. That is a way you can start to engage yourself with scenario thinking. You can select a few websites, those really relevant to your business, in order to start your scenario thinking approach. And please, really last but not least, in order to act global, think local. Because we have a need, maybe today, of a local execution. Our global strategies cannot find a unique execution. We have to be compliant with the local world, a little bit global, a little bit local, or really at the same time global and local. Depending on the local markets, depending on the local mindset, depending on the local rules, we have to behave accordingly. We have to act accordingly. So we have really to act globally, to think locally. That is part of scenario thinking. That is why I selected for you some websites, mainly reporting different legal and economic systems all around the world. We have a need to take care of that. You can also start by yourself, if you wish, a multimedia file in order to directly listen from the head of state that is the most relevant and most important person dealing with cultural intelligence. Is the person who started and who grounded the cultural intelligence field, how to deal with local mindsets. And within my charts, you can also have a deeper understanding of the basics about cultural intelligence, because I summarized for you some more info regarding how to understand locally the world in order to behave accordingly, executing a global strategy. That's all. I do not know if you had the chance to really follow me also to the charts or not. Thank you so much for attending the webinar. And I'm here if you wish to start with a question and answer session.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Salvati, for a very interesting presentation. Folks, we are now open for the question and answers. So if you have a question, you could either raise your hand. There's a hand icon available on your webinar console, or you could put questions in the question box, and I will be happy to read them over on your behalf. Let me go. We had interest from a caller. I'll try to unmute. Hi, Ismail Iral. Ismail, can you hear us? Could you please introduce and ask a question?
Thank you. Hello to everyone. So I was just going to ask that the teams are very critical, I guess. Diversity in the teams has to support this systems thinking and scenario thinking in order to come up with those multi-perspectives. We need to have a variety of people in the teams to support those very different scenarios to flourish. And also the environment, the social climate has to allow those people to come up with their ideas freely. So can we say that the inclusiveness of the total social system is the key to proceed and to succeed for this scenario thinking? the question goes for Fernando.
Yes, I fully agree. Diversity management is part of the process. At least has to be part of the framework. If not, there are escamotages, there are ways, quite broad, to foster diverse visions within quite homogeneous teams. But it's challenging, for sure very challenging.
Yes, otherwise there is always this possibility of groupthink happening, and well, yeah, the whole thing would be useless.
Groupthink is not useless. Many times within a group, within a team, people are not so able or enabled to think and to produce ideas the same way like they were alone and solo thinkers, let's say.
Yeah, yeah.
But animating and facilitating the scenario thinking teams by professional people used to do that means fostering and really increasing chances that teams will be able to produce something with a diverse thinking approach.
I see.
Because teams are not alone, because we suggest to work with learning facilitators or at least team builders within the teams, because there are relevant benchmarks from Shell, but not only from Shell, in order to how to enable teams to produce something relevant. So it's possible, challenging but possible.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Ismail. Could you please also introduce where you call from and where you work?
Well, I'm currently I happen to be in London, but I'm located in Istanbul. I am an academic in organization theory. I am also a businessman, having interest in various arenas like finance, real estate, tourism, and F&B, which means I live in a very uncertain environment, as you can imagine. So it's very interesting for me to listen to that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for asking the question as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have another question in the question box for Mr. Fernando Silvati. How would you define peripheral vision? How can one polish his or her peripherals?
How you define peripheral vision?
Yeah.
In the opinion means avoiding to look at the world through an only window or using an only pair of glasses. You have to try to understand from people that are behaving in a different way compared with yours, the way they are looking through their own windows or through their own glasses, in order to foster and to bring together at least more than one vision about the same topic. But that is a major topic. So really dealing with the peripheral vision maybe today is not easy, because we were supposed to be in need of at least half an hour or more in order to really deepen that area. It's not easy. It's very challenging. It's an interesting question.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Fernando Silvati, for this very interesting, intriguing presentation of scenario plannings. That brings us towards the end of the webinar. I would like to thank you on behalf of mine for this valuable content that you presented today. Any concluding remarks that you would like to give before we dismiss our?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much to all the attendees. It has been a real pleasure to me being here today with you.
Thank you very much once again. Thank you all of those who participated and for posing the questions. With that note, we would like to end this webinar with a quick announcement that this webinar is being recorded. It will be uploaded on Mile Community, which is community.mile.org. So please stay tuned to the community to download the soft copy of the presentation and watch the webinar, and also access the archive section of our previous webinars. Well, thank you very much once again. We'd like to end. You all will be automatically dismissed. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Madinah Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurship, MILE.